I am Kim Banneman, Vice Chair of the South Dakota Ag Foundation Board. Today, the South Dakota Ag Foundation is hosting 4 separate seminars. I have the privilege of facilitating the first session, Transitioning Your Ag Business. I've been involved in agriculture industry all my life. In my opinion, it truly is the most rewarding, exciting industry to be involved in. The topic of transitioning your ag business is so very important and critical to the industry. The industry that provides the food, fuel, and fiber for the world needs to know that these businesses will be here for generations to come. I look forward to hearing about the experiences and the knowledge that our panel has today and in the processes that they've gone through. My husband and I are at the point that we are transitioning our 4th generation family farm to the next generation. So this seminar is extremely timely for me personally. I just want to remind all of our viewers this morning, I want to welcome you and glad that you're here and have joined this seminar. But we will have a question and answer series towards the end of the seminar. And just want you to know that at the bottom of your screen, you'll see the little chat box or icon. If you will just click that, and in that box that'll pop up, then you can type in your question. Make sure that it is set to send to everyone and go ahead and send it. And then I will get those, receive those questions, and we'll be able to ask them to the panelists on your behalf. So hopefully you'll be thinking of questions as we go through and hear the information from our panelists, and that any questions you'll have, we'll be able to take at the end. So let's start out by meeting our panelists today. We have Brian and Nick Jorgensen, father and son and partners in Jorgensen Land and Cattle at Ideal. We have Bob Metz with Metz Farms at Peaver, and Alan Hoyer from Lake Preston, involved in his family operation, as well as manager and legacy consultant of Keep Farmers Farming, a division of First Dakota National Bank. So Brian, let's start with you. If you would just want to give our viewers some your bio and background information about your operation and your family and that, and we'll just go through all 4 of you and do with some introductions.
Well, yes, well, thank you, Kim. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Jorgensen, and I'm currently the Chief Agronomy Operations Officer here at Jorgensen Land and Cattle. I'm in partnership with my son, Nick, my brother, Greg, and my nephew, Cody. And those 4 of us encompass the ownership of Jorgensen Land and Cattle. We're a very diversified operation. Primarily, we sell Angus bulls and genetics. We also crop about 12,000, 13,000 acres, most of which is feed. And we also do certified seed, winter wheat, spring wheat, and oats. And lastly, we have a hunting business. We operate a full-blown lodge that runs about 5 days a week for about 10 weeks straight. So that keeps us on our toes. We currently have about 25 full-time employees that we manage. So we're blessed to have a really good crew with us. So that's kind of in a nutshell what it is I do.
Great, thank you, Brian. Nick, do you want to give us your bio?
Yeah, so Dad went through and kind of gave a highlight of Jorgensen Land and Cattle, so I'll maybe just talk a little bit about myself then. Nick Jorgensen, I'm CEO of Jorgensen Land and Cattle. Like Brian said, partner in the business with him, my cousin Cody, and my uncle Greg. Myself, I'm a graduate of South Dakota State, graduated there in 2013 with an ag business degree and then a master's in economics in 2014. Then I got my MBA at Dakota Wesleyan University in 2016. In addition to my responsibilities here at Jorgensen Land and Cattle, I'm vice chair of the Farm Credit Services of America Board of Directors, which is based out of Omaha, and I've also previously served on South Dakota Corn Utilization Council. Married to my wife Ashley for going on 8 years now. We've got 4 sons. So we've got this is a topic that's really in our head as we think about transitioning, down from my great grandfather all the way to, I've got sons as well that I have to be thinking about. So children that I have to be thinking about.
That's great. Thank you, Nick. Bob, do you want to give us your, introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Kim, and certainly welcome. Bob Metz, my wife Karen and I are fifth generation farmers. We have two sons and a son-in-law that are back to be the sixth generation, as well as a son who farms with his in-laws up in North Dakota. So all of our family are involved in production ag. We're also blessed to have 12 grandkids. One of the best parts about having farming with 3 of your kids, we have 9 grandchildren that are literally 5 minutes from our house. So that's a great blessing. We run a little over 6,000 tillable acres along with some pasture and such, mainly producing corn and soybeans and soybean seed production for one of the major companies. I'm very blessed that my wife Karen and I are both full-time farmers. That makes it very easy. She understands the business. She's run every piece of equipment. She does the accounting along with my oldest son. So very easy to do business that way. I spent about 25 years as a volunteer in the soybean industry. Was the state president of the soybean growers in South Dakota, and eventually became the national president of the American Soybean Association, as well as I served as the national president of the National Biodiesel Board, and I've been very active in ethanol. So looking forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
Great. Thank you, Bob. Ellen, would you give us an introduction to you?
I sure will. So first of all, thank you for having me on the panel today. I appreciate that. Bob, I appreciate the grandchildren comment. I know Brian and I, we kind of like that too. It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
We have 10 of them and one on the way as well. My wife Pam and I. So I kind of wear 2 hats. We do have a farm and ranch operation. It was actually, we're first generation operation. We started in 1992. Our stories, we started with 10 cows and $25,000, and we built it from there. My oldest son, Blake, and his wife, Jennifer, are in partnership with Pam and I, and Blake runs our operation today. So my opportunity off farm, and I consider my role with First Dakota as manager and legacy consultant in the Keep Farmers Farming program. It's a form of diversification for us here, but at the same time, I actually get to work with farms and ranches across the state. I also do work in Nebraska, Northwest Iowa, and Southwest Minnesota, doing what I'm actually living at home, transitioning of our operation, as well as the estate planning piece. If you think about this, some of the most difficult stuff that people will have to do, because it's measured so differently, but it's so emotionally, there's a lot of emotions involved. My history prior to that, I was with Land O'Lakes through the 80s, milk procurement. I've also worked for Syngenta as a chemical rep and sales manager at South Dakota Wheat Growers. So my experience of having, working within structures of corporations has been very helpful as I work with operations and how to get operational structure in place. But again, it's a privilege to be here. And it's even a greater privilege to work with farmers and ranchers across the state. I truly am blessed. So, but thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you to all the panelists. You did a great job giving your background information. And clearly, I'm guessing all the viewers would totally agree with me that there's not a question that all 4 of you are very, very passionate about your family, about agriculture, and making sure that we can transition this business to the next generation. So clearly we've got the right people in the seats on this panel to share this information. So with that, let's get started. And we'll just go through with each one of the panelists and have you share what your experience has been as you've been working through and transitioning your operation to the next generation. Bob, do you want to kick us off with that?
Well, sure, thanks. This is a subject I'm very passionate about. I watch people and I watch how people have done it. Unfortunately, many of us are very good at producing and raising livestock, but sometimes the transitioning we really fail at, and it rips apart families, it rips apart family farms. So I'm very passionate about it. I didn't come to farming in the usual way. I grew up on a small dairy farm, but it was too small for me to be a part of. So I went out to the farm where my mother grew up, my grandmother grew up, and farmed with her two brothers who were bachelors. I didn't get paid a wage. They didn't want an employee. They wanted someone who wanted to farm. So I received the crop off 80 acres. So I started farming basically the very first year. The second year we had a terrible drought and we really didn't get much of a crop in 1976. And my uncle said, well, this is farming. If you've got the stomach for this, you'll make it. We were blessed that we were able to go to a technical college the first couple of years. And so we got a degree out of a technical school and then came back full time. My uncles made it very clear to me right up front that they would certainly give me an opportunity to farm, but they also made it clear that I would never ever inherit anything from them, and I would not be given anything, none of the equipment, none of that part of it. And I think that was a very good thing. Do that. Well, first, they were very generous people. Do not get me wrong. They gave to people that needed it. People didn't even know they gave to them. So they were very good people, but they just said, you're young, you're healthy, why would we give to you? Everything that I ever bought from them, whether it was land or equipment, they had it appraised. And like when I bought the equipment, it was all or nothing, no negotiating, appraised value. I bought 2 pieces of land from them. The first one was at appraised value, and that was the home quarter that today my son has, and my grandchildren are the 7th generation to live on that farm. It is actually 5 years older than the state of South Dakota. It was still Dakota Territories when they homesteaded there. So we're very proud of that. The other piece I bought was the main building site. And that's the only piece that I didn't pay appraisal to because my uncle didn't agree with the appraisal. And he says, here's what it's appraised for. I won't sell it for that, but I will sell it to you for approximately 50% more in appraised value. I agreed with him. And so we always did everything very straight up. There's a saying that I like that I've heard a few times and I use it quite a bit. I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth, but I did have a spoon. We weren't well-to-do people growing up, and neither was my wife's family, but we had a home that we came home to. We had clothes, we had good food. And so, but we knew that we would probably never ever inherit anything from that family's. So we got married when we were 18 years old, married my high school sweetheart. And from basically the day we got married, we were on our own, your own insurance, your own vehicles and everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. Good. So when it comes to farm transition, I think there's 3 very critical parts. Number 1 is a transition of the daily decision-making, taking care of employees and work schedules. And that's a very tough one. The number 2 is a transition when we want to retire. And of course, number 3 would be the transition when we pass away. We believe in having a transition team. So obviously Karen and I have to be on the same page first. We believe in hiring a good transitional counselor, someone who works with family farms. Our family lawyer is a very key part of it. Obviously, we got to do it the proper way. We have to have an accountant that understands not only our finance today, but also the tax implications of what we want to do in the future. And our banker obviously has to be in the mix of all of this. We knew we had our second son who wanted to come back and farm from the time he's a little guy. But we told all of our children, if you want to come back to our family farm, you will have a college education, and then you will work 3 years for someone else. We don't care what field. My oldest son worked for the Target stores, learned great management skills, learned great people skills. Another son worked for Case IH. So I'm sure my second son would have gladly graduated one day from high school and served for him the next. But that was our rule for 2 reasons. I think it brought back maturity. I think the connections that you make going to school as well as working summers was very good for them. And it also gives them maturity. I had friends say, well, gosh, what if they don't come back? I said, well, that's great. Obviously, they found something that they love more than farming. I'd rather have them figure that out ahead of time. rather than later.